Ethan could not believe what Clara had just said, and he stood there frozen, staring at her, trying to understand how the quiet maid who had arrived weeks ago could suddenly be the woman he had once married, the same woman he had loved deeply before memory and time had blurred the past. And as Clara stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her, she began to explain in a calm, steady voice that made his heart ache with every word, telling him that after the accident that had caused him to forget their life together, she had returned to take care of him without revealing her identity at first, because she wanted him to remember naturally, to rediscover the love they had shared without forcing him. And Ethan felt a mixture of shock, anger, confusion, and an overwhelming flood of emotions he could not control, because every small moment they had shared in the mansion, the perfectly timed tea, the way she seemed to know his moods, the careful organization of his home, suddenly made sense, and he realized that her quiet presence had been guiding him back to her all along. And yet, even as he tried to speak, to ask questions about why she had stayed silent for so long, tears welled in her eyes as she admitted that she had watched him suffer in loneliness, that she had wanted to protect him from the truth until the right moment. And Ethan, unable to move, felt a deep ache in his chest, realizing how much he had missed her without knowing it. And in that moment, the past came, rushing back in flashes: wedding nights, arguments, laughter, promises, and love, all mingled with the pain of separation. And Clara, seeing the recognition flicker in his eyes, reached for his hand gently, her touch familiar yet new, and whispered, "I never left you, Ethan. I never stopped loving you." And he held her hand, trembling, words failing him as the mansion that had felt empty and cold for months suddenly felt alive with warmth and emotion. But just as he began to embrace her fully, to pull her into the life they had once shared, the phone rang shrilly, breaking the fragile moment, and on the screen was a call from Vanessa, his estranged wife, whose name made Ethan's heart pound with fear and uncertainty. And Clara froze, realizing the danger that call represented, that the fragile rediscovery of their love could be shattered by the past. And Ethan answered the phone with a trembling hand, listening as Vanessa's voice came through, calm but cold, saying words that made Ethan's blood run cold. She had returned to reclaim something she had lost, and Ethan understood instantly that the journey to remember, to trust, and to rebuild the life he had almost forgotten, was just beginning. And that Clara, the maid who was his wife, the woman who had silently held his heart all this time, would have to face Vanessa's secrets, lies, and schemes together with him, as the true battle for their love, their home, and their future had only just begun, leaving the chapter of Part 2 on a cliffhanger so intense that Ethan and Clara both knew nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan Blackwell was a wealthy man who had everything he could want: money, power, and a beautiful mansion. But he had never felt truly happy since his wife, Vanessa, had left months ago without explanation, and now he lived alone, moving through the silent halls of his home like a shadow, never noticing the small details, until one rainy morning when a young woman named Clara Summers arrived to work as his maid. And though she appeared ordinary, there was something in her calm eyes that made him uneasy, a quiet confidence that set her apart from anyone he had ever met. And as she began organizing the mansion, making his schedule easier, preparing his tea just the way he liked it, and noticing things about the house and even about him that no one else could, he felt an unfamiliar pull toward her, curiosity mixed with confusion. And even though he tried to ignore it, he caught himself thinking about her during his meetings, wondering what she was thinking. And on one evening, as he returned from a long day at the office, he noticed a photograph left on a table, a young Clara with a wedding ring on her finger, smiling in a way that seemed deeply personal. And for the first time, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, because the photograph suggested something he couldn't yet understand, that this quiet maid might hold secrets he had never imagined. And when he confronted her subtly, asking why she always seemed to know exactly what he needed before he said anything, she simply smiled and said, "Some things you will understand in time." And Ethan's mind raced with questions, and later that night, as he tried to sleep, he overheard her speaking softly on the phone, her words catching him off guard. She spoke of him by name and mentioned a promise, a word heavy with meaning he couldn't place, and his heart began to pound as he realized that this woman, who had been quietly improving his life and bringing warmth to a house that had felt empty for so long, was hiding a truth far bigger than he could imagine. And then, just as he turned to leave her room, she appeared silently at the doorway, and with a faint, mysterious smile, she looked at him with eyes that seemed familiar, almost haunting, and Ethan, unable to contain his shock, blurted out, "Wait, are you my wife?" And Clara paused, letting the words hang in the air, then whispered softly, "I thought you'd remember sooner," leaving Ethan frozen, heart racing, mind spinning, and every question he had about the past, the present, and the woman standing before him remained unanswered, setting the stage for a revelation that would change everything he thought he knew about love, trust, and the life he had built alone.